Lepetikile lila washte, lepetikile washte kalda bikte, kulamita, kulamita, kulamita huo. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Say it again.
See how universal I put the language is? You could record it. Kiapi iushkia wachianke, lehi hanikile lila washte. Sequoia Crosswhite e machapelo, machate washte nape chizapelo. Itancha wambiu kichize mitunkashla. Naha itancha makbia luzaha mitunkashla. Okay, iushkia wachianke. Hello, my relatives, is all I said. Good morning. My name is Sequoia Crosswhite. I am an enrolled member of the Cheyenne River Lakota tribe. And the last thing I said to you is I come to you with a warm heart and a warm handshake. So to start off this morning's presentation, I'd like to sing for you a song that was composed after World War I. I'd like to acknowledge that out of all of the wonderful diversity that we have in this country, that Native Americans have served the most in the United States military. The song I'm going to sing for you this morning is the Lakota American flag song. So if there's any veterans or anybody still serving, I'd like to sing it in your honor and thank you for your service. I am a direct descendant of two chiefs, Chief Warrigal and Chief Swiftcloud. But I'm also a very, very proud grandson of a grandfather who flew 96 missions in a P-47 and became a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force. And my father served in the Navy as well, and I sing in their honor as well. So here is the Lakota American flag song. So the lyrics of the song simply stated that there's a grandfather to the east. This grandfather has a pole that stands up tall. On that pole there's a flag that waves without end. It says standing underneath that flag will bring strength and unification to the people. So the last lyrics of the song and the last lyrics that the warrior composed, he said, Le chamu alo, I will do this. I will stand underneath this flag and bring strength and unification to the people. I have two intentions when I give these presentations up here. My first intention is I want human beings to leave here feeling more united and not divided, because there's enough of that in the world today. And I also want to have human beings to have more awareness of natural conservation, because truly we're only in this world for so long, and we borrow it from our next generation. I wear many different hats in this world. The most important one is I'm a father, but I'm also a musician who does a lot of international travels. And I got friends from all over the world. I learn about their country, their culture, the history, and their language. Then they ask about my culture. A little challenge for you Americans up here. Who can tell me the name of the first casualty of our Revolutionary War? This great American hero was a business owner and had his own shipping company in Boston, Massachusetts in the 1700s. His mother came from the Wampanoag people. The Wampanoags are the ones who helped the separatists who were escaping religious freedom, better known as the Thanksgiving story. That's his mother's people. His father's people came from Africa. Here you have an individual who's mixed with African and native blood, who has his own successful business and his own shipping company in Boston, Massachusetts in the 1700s, prior to any civil rights ever having to be established, already living that great American dream. That great American hero and that tribal citizen, his name is Crispus Attucks. So if you remember in the history books, they call it the shot that rang out throughout the world. And that's the very beginning of our country. This group has been made in the history books that you could simply take, trade, or obtain as many as you possibly can handle. Why would they want to make this group seem weak and unhealthy? Because if this group is weak and unhealthy, then they give birth to weak and unhealthy warriors, and they give birth to weak and unhealthy leaders. The group I'm talking about is our Native women. And forgive me if I seem a little emotional as I mention this great American hero, but I get my blood from my mother. And what I want you guys to understand is when you see these majestic lodges around, just know that the women own these lodges. The women put up these lodges. The women went out into the forest and cut down the lodge poles and scraped off those branches and those barks and turned those trees into a home. All of these men can say what they want to in council, but we know who makes the final decision when they go inside that lodge. Now when I was a little boy, I'd ask my unchi, my grandmother, I'd say, unchi, unchi, it seems like all the women are doing all the work. And my unchi would snap back at me and she would say, yes, because we want it done right. Another thing that they don't consider in the history books is that there's a universal law that still exists to this day. That universal law is that us fathers of daughters are very, very proud of our daughters. So you better be a very good individual if you want to marry one of our daughters. And in the ceremony that we had a long time ago, we call it a kichiuzapi. Kichiuzapi in English means a wedding. In this ceremony, the two individuals will come together just like they do nowadays. And all the family and the friends and the relatives. And as they go through the ceremony, at the end of the ceremony, they make one final thing. They take a little scratch off of each other's arm. Just a little scraping. And instead of exchanging rings, they take a little scratch. Just a little piece of each other's skin. And they put it into a leather bind, like what I wear around my neck. And then they hang it from the tree. And they know each other's name by then, but they never call each other by their name after that. They only say one term in Lakota, one term only. They say, Mahasani, 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 Mahasani in celebration. Mahasani, translated into English, means my other skin, my other flesh. See how sacred that ceremony is? See how high of standards those are? Human beings without high standards would not exist. I would not be able to speak my language if it wasn't for those high standards. And remember, women are the first ones to teach us men when we're boys our first sign of manners, patience. Some of the first words that come out of our mouth come from our mothers. And so before I acknowledge this great American hero, I have to say, if you've liked my character and my presentation so far, I'd like to thank you for coming up here for your curiosities. But that is because I am a mama's boy and I'm a grandma's boy. And I miss my mom and I miss my grandmas all the time. So before I acknowledge this great American hero, I'd like to acknowledge all the mothers and the aunties and the grandmothers that are here this morning by playing for you one of my grandmother's favorite melodies. After I'm done with this melody, I'll acknowledge this great American hero. Then I'd love to share some of my language with you. And then you guys can guess which one of these pictures I really am a direct descendant of, even with these light eyes. So here is a melody for the mothers and the aunties and the grandmothers. Now this great American hero was born in the late 1800s in the height of assimilation. She was sent on a train from here in South Dakota to Carlisle Indian Boarding School in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. When she arrived at that boarding school, she did not like to see the treatment of the children there, and she did not like to see the treatment she was receiving, so she wanted to make a difference. How do you make a difference in this country? You join the system. So after receiving her primary education, she got her higher education. She actually became a teacher at that school. While receiving her higher education, she also became a musician. She learned to play the violin so fine that the President of the United States at the time asked for her to come to the White House and to play for him. She is still to this day the only Lakota woman who has ever composed and performed an opera on Broadway in New York City. Her publications, The Stories of Our People, can still be found in libraries all over the world to this day. She goes by the penmanship of Zitkála-Šá, which means red bird woman. Now you think for a human being in this world, that's a lot of achievements. But just like as she witnessed the treatment of the children at the boarding schools, she witnessed the treatment of the people in the city streets of our country, and she didn't like that. So she wanted to make a difference. Again, how do you make a difference? You join the system. She spent the last years of her life living in Washington, D.C., fighting for two groups to have civil rights. Most Americans are unfamiliar of this fact, but a lot of my grandparents, and maybe some of your grandparents, were not even citizens of the United States until 1924. That goes to show, if you were here earlier when I sang the song that was composed after World War I, it was to acknowledge that a lot of those soldiers who fought in World War I for our country and that were native were not even citizens of the United States, but still fought just as hard and just as proud. Who else got the right to vote in this country in the 1920s? Was that?
Women.
You can say it a little bit louder.
Women.
Women, because you realize that there's a lot of countries that still exist to this day where women have no rights at all. And we must be honest as Americans, with a lot of perseverance and trials and tribulations up into the 1960s, then all women got the right to vote in this country. But one of those champion women at the very beginning, who was very good friends with Susan B. Anthony, but not found in the history books too much, but she was there, was a Lakota woman from right here in South Dakota. That great American hero and that tribal citizen in Lakota, her name is Zitkála-Šá. In English, her name is Gertrude Simmons Bonnet. And she is truly an American hero and a tribal citizen. And she spent the rest of the years of her life living in Washington, D.C. to ensure that all human beings have civil rights in this country. And she would tell you that not only does she represent her nation, but she also represents all women, and no man can hold us back. So one thing she would like to share is in Lakota we have virtues, just like I told you about the wedding. One of those virtues is we say, Wowicha'ake. Wowicha'ake in English means truth. The more us human beings find truth, it sets us what?
Free.
All right, so here's some truth. When you walked up this morning, you seen the sign that said Lakota, Nakota, and Dakota. It did not say Sioux Indian Village. Why? Because Masu Shni. Sioux is a derogatory term that has been used for way too long. It's not even in our language. It's not even a part of our dialect. It comes from two languages. It comes from the Anishinaabe language of the Great Lakes, and it was pluralized by the French. The Anishinaabe, they used this term, one of the interpreters used this term, they said Nadawasi. Nadawasi translated into English means snakes and enemies. The French interpreter pluralized that by adding a O-U-X. So then you put those two words together, you got a Nadawasu. Then you get Sioux, which means snakes and enemies. But Lakota, Nakota, and Dakota means friends and allies. See the big difference of those terminologies. Now imagine in the history books if it would have said that it's just a last gathering of alliance of friends living up at the greasy grass trying to live their last bit of way of life instead of putting out there the warring, savage, hostile Sioux. See the big difference of those terms? Now here's another insight. This is a phrase that we've been saying for thousands and thousands of years. All of these individuals said this phrase when they're alive, and we still say it to this day. Crazy Horse said this phrase. Sitting Bull said this phrase. Goal said this phrase. Rain in the Face said this phrase. And I truly believe that all of you have had this phrase written on your hearts. You just have to accept it. Can you guys all say Mitakuya? Mitakuya?
Mitakuya.
Oyasi.
Oyasi.
Mitakuya?
Mitakuya.
Oyasi.
Oyasi.
And I'm a certified language teacher, so I do know 3 times can lead to some retainment. So one more time, mitakuya, oyasi. And what mitakuya, oyasi literally translates into English is, no matter what color skin tone you have, hair color, or eye color, we are all related. So we don't judge each other by what we look like or where we come from, but we judge each other by our character, because that's what truly counts. Remember, all life is sacred and precious and a gift. And in Lakota, we don't have a word for goodbye because we don't believe in goodbyes. We believe life is a mimela, it's a circle that never ends. So eventually we're going to see each other again. So when you depart from new friends, loved ones, new relatives, we say the term Daksha. Can you guys say Daksha? Daksha. One more time, Daksha. Daksha. All right, 3 times for retainment, Daksha. Daksha. And Daksha simply means I will see you later. So Daksha akewa chiam kiktelo. La patukila lila washteya hapo. Thank you guys so much for coming up this morning and listening to the presentation. And if you were here earlier, I told you I am a direct descendant of 2 chiefs, Chief War Eagle and Chief Swift Cloud. So if you ever go through Sioux City, Iowa, you see that there's a statue of a chief who would pipe across the Missouri River in the Big Sioux River. That is Chief War Eagle. And if you take a look at this young man in the face and you look at me in the face, you're going to see a lot of similarities. This picture is from 1885. This is War Eagle's grandson, and I'm his great-great-grandson. This is my great-great-grandfather. His name's Iawashte. This is Chief Hump, the son of Chief Hump. Both are related to Tashunkawitkot, the crazy horse. Again, this picture is in 1885 in Washington, D.C. My great-great-grandfather's name was Iawashte because he spoke 3 different languages. He spoke Lakota, Nakota, Dakota, Poricele Francois, and English, because French was the first European language out here. So hence the word, his name was Good Voice. So this is from one grandfather's side. But I told you I'm also a direct descendant of Chief Swift Cloud. Swift Cloud was with 2 moons, Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, Rain, Gull, Rain in the Face, Gull, Antelope, Black Coal, Crazy Horse, all up at this camp at the Greasy Grass. In the history books, they're going to tell you that there was thousands and thousands of warriors that engulfed Custer and the 7th Cavalry on that day. And I'm going to tell you, that's physically impossible. Why? Because there was a treaty that was signed 8 years prior to that called the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty. When that treaty was signed, it established 2 agencies. Pine Ridge Reservation nowadays, which was Red Cloud Agency back then, and then Spotted Tail Agency, which is Rosebud Reservation nowadays. So you can see physically, thousands of our people were already on reservation land. The group up the Greasy Grass were only of about 3,500 that were made up of Lakota, Nakota, Dakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho. And within those 3,500, only 1,500 of them were actually warriors. And they were both male and female. The other 2,000 citizens up at that camp were mothers, aunties, grandmothers, grandfathers, and children. And one of those children running around in that camp was Swift Cloud's daughter, my great-great-grandmother, who also looked a lot alike. And her name is Hiluntawi, which means red-haired girl, because you could see where the sun had bleached the top of her hair and made it look a little reddish up there. She was 9 years old at the time of that battle, and she lived to be 102. So if you're curious about where I share my language, my culture, and my history from, it comes directly from my grandmothers and my grandfather. So, wo pilatanka e chichapalo. Thank you guys so much for coming up this morning.
Thank you.
Love your words.
I deleted that one.
That got me. Yeah, I actually got it. So,
Okay.
yeah, very nice.
Thank you, ladies.
Mitakuye oyasi.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, mitakuye oyasi.
Say it, say it.
Oyasi.
Thanks for doing that.
I'm Wanda.
I'm Wayne Wanda.
When you
One,
want
two,
it.
three.
Thank you so much.
So do you have a name, an Indian name?
Yeah, one of my Indian names is Matochikla, which is Little Bear.
Okay.
And so my English name, my birth name is Sequoia Crosswhite. Yeah. And I do have music out there. It hasn't been approved by the FDA, but it's known to lower the blood pressure. and I don't have CDs to give out, but if you guys are curious, and then I was just nominated this last year for 2 Native American Music Awards.
I definitely.
Well, music's a universal language. If you guys came up here earlier, right when I open up, I always open up with this. I sing this song and see if you guys can recognize it. Lampatukile lila washte, lampatukile washte unkaga bikte, kolamita, kolamita, kolamita huo. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
They're just working together.
Yeah.
Everything was used for everything. So if you look at this bowl right here, all these parts are all different parts of the buffalo. And all of them used for all types of purposes and tools. These are just to give you an idea of timelines. This is of the 1800s on how we decorated our utilitarian tools and clothing. And this is 17 prior to the 1700s and up to the mid 1800s. We used porcupine quills to decorate our things. And so all we did for the porcupines, a lot of people were very connected to porcupines. All you have to do is take your hide, throw it on top of the porcupine. They shoot out their quills. Then you got a bunch of things to work with.
Cool.
And then also, you see what I'm wearing on my head. This is also porcupine hair. This is called a pesha. This is another thing we contributed to U.S. military besides our code talking, and that's called camouflage. And so then they would also get the porcupines for that. But one thing that people don't think about, and as I was talking about the buffalo, now I'm talking about the porcupine, but one invention that came from America that people use nowadays and don't realize it came from right here is a syringe. And so us natives, we had medicine people, and if people got sick, how would they get their medicine inside of their bodies? They would take a porcupine quill, which is already hollowed out and already pointed out, and you hook up a bladder to that, and then you can shoot that into your deal. And that's where the first syringe came from.
Wow.
But then all of these, again, this is buffalo hide, so you've seen how soft that hide is, right? And this is actual hide too. And that's raw hide. And that's just when you scrape one side of the hide and then you let it dry in the sun. And then the way we seal it to make it waterproof is just by setting a fire over it and let the smoke, it soaks up the smoke, and that's what closes the pores on that. But yeah, all of those are different parts. As long as you can listen to mom and dad, right?
Ready, Rajas? Look here. 3, 2, 1. Good. There you go. One more. Last. 3, 2, 1.
Remind you of that. So here's a prayer song for you guys' travels.